All right, everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast, emergency edition. First time we've ever had to do this. Obviously, not in our usual settings. Paul Russo here in my home. Kyle Evans, co-host at his home, and joining us for the first time, our own correspondent at FingerLakes1.com, Josh Durso. Appreciate you guys hopping on here, last minute emergency style, like I said.
Wish the circumstances were better. Wish the circumstances were better.
Yeah,
Yeah, as you obviously are a Met fan, obviously I would be super unhappy right now, but you know, it was a fluke injury. It could happen to anyone.
Celebrating
yeah.
in exhibition baseball.
Let's give the people some background here if they somehow didn't
Let's.
know, because this has taken over as one of, I believe it's the third trending topic right now on Twitter, in the middle, by the way, of the first day of March Madness. Uh,
Yeah.
Right-hand pitcher Edwin Diaz, closer for the Mets, pitching for Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic last night, went down with an injury while celebrating, diagnosed today after an MRI as a torn patellar tendon in his right leave knee. Timeline for that is 6 to 8 months recovery. Surgery is already planned for later on today. Edwin signed a 5-year, $102 million contract in the offseason. So quite the blow already for what is one of the premier players in New York City.
Yeah,
Huge.
I don't know if you guys saw like exactly how it happened. I didn't really see the
Yeah.
actual footage because there were so many people around him. But did he just get twisted up? Do you guys know or?
So that portion of it is still a little bit cloudy in a way, because just the way the camera angle was. So closed out the game for Puerto Rico, defeated the Dominican Republic 5-2. He was actually walking towards the dugout when his teammates came out in the field. They were celebrating that clinched Puerto Rico's spot in the quarterfinals for the World Baseball Classic. While they were jumping out and celebrating, that's when he went down. Whether he got tangled up with somebody or not, I haven't been able to see one way or another, because his teammates kind of parted the Red Sea, if you will, and were signaling for somebody to get out there and assist in at least getting him up.
Yeah, see, that's such a fluke injury. I mean, that really could have happened to anyone, any team's player. But, like as Josh said, I would be unhappy too if that was my closer, if that was my player. And but I still don't buy all this stuff on social media saying that MLB players shouldn't participate in the World Baseball Classic. I get it's not as huge as, winning a World Series, but players still love playing for their country. And I think it's a cool opportunity to watch and be part of as a player.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think it looked like he might have come down on someone else's foot situation. Like that seemed to be the only plausible way that his knee could get twisted up the way it apparently did. This is when casual baseball fans look at this, and I'll throw myself in that heap, more casual baseball fan. These are the kinds of injuries that make them say baseball's a joke, right? Like this is it. Like you're celebrating in baseball that doesn't mean anything, because if look at it this way, if you're an American baseball fan, you care about the MLB. You don't really care that much about the other World Cup style events. Not to say that it isn't important and it's not important for these guys. Obviously, it's important for them, but this is the risk that you run. To me, this is one of those events that feels like it should be played at a different time of year. It should not be played during spring training in the run up to the season. I know the season is like endlessly long already, but this is devastating for the Mets. I mean, completely devastating for the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the long criticisms that even I've kind of had about the World Baseball Classic, is the fact that it's pretty much, really, to be fair, the first through really third and a half week of March, kind of leading up to obviously the MLB season, but not just the MLB. I look at internationally, right? The Japanese professional leagues, KBO, predominantly the other major professional leagues, they're in their run up as well. And so I've always kind of thought that I would rather probably see it, to not to get maybe too far off track, but sometime in November/December. I mean, the venues you already have it at anyway. Miami, Phoenix in the U.S. this year. Obviously, warm climates with domes anyway. Um, and the climate's not going to be too far off in whether it's Taiwan, Japan also playing in a dome as well. So I feel like all the venues you got are can be played any time of year.
Yeah, how many players do you think moving forward will kind of maybe back out of this tournament and not be part of it because of this injury like this? I mean, we saw Mike Trout and Mookie Betts kind of defend a lot of other people saying that they're going to continue to participate because it's their country. But do you think more people would back out after seeing something like this?
Why wouldn't they? I mean, you're
Well,
being paid. I mean, if you're Edwin Diaz, you're being paid by the Mets, right?
I,
Like I don't know what kind of clauses are in that contract that he just signed, that 5-year deal, but one of those years has now been scratched off.
I think it's a little bit of a cultural thing, to be honest. I think you kind of look at the way baseball is perceived, at least here in the United States. And this has kind of always been like I'll watch World Baseball Classic or the sparse times they are on TV, whether it's the Dominican Winter Leagues or like I've already mentioned, Japan and Korea. I mean, the atmospheres there are always as crazy. And look, the Latino players have always said that they love playing for the national teams, and it's something that they usually don't regret. So I could see maybe the players from the U.S. maybe taking that stance where they don't want to, but I think the players that it means something to wear the national name across the chest, I don't think they'll see this as a hindrance.
yeah, it just sucks because this little, what I keep calling fluke injury, is kind of changing everyone's minds on this whole tournament. And obviously, if that would have never happened, this wouldn't have been a discussion today. So,
Right.
as I
So
said, as a Mets fan, you're obviously really upset, but I just don't get how everyone wants to just completely stop participating in it.
Well, the other aspect of this is like it's a fluke injury, yes, but would this have happened if, say, this were played in a 3 or 4 week span in July, in August? Like when they're in, like part of this, I feel like is you've got guys who aren't yet in like regular season form and shape. And that's when you're most prone to fluke injuries, is when your body isn't there yet. Like are these guys like, is Edwin Diaz, was he ready as if like it was going to be game one of the MLB season when he's making, these starts for Puerto Rico? Like to me, that's another element of this. Whereas like different time of year completely changes everything. Even if it's like a few weeks during the middle of summer and we shorten the season somehow or whatever the case, I don't know. Just this is gut wrenching. Like this is pretty much the worst case scenario for Mets. How does a Yankees fan feel about it?
well, I was actually going to pose this question quick. We know that Kyle would probably know this more than anybody potentially here, even myself. Do we know that Edwin play in the winter leagues this year at all or no?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So it's weird for me because I kind of wish more Yankees were playing in the World Baseball Classic in the sense right now. Um, I think for me though, it's like I kind of look at it from more the general the sport perspective where um like I know it's fluke and I know it's like that one in who knows how many chance, right, of something like this happening. In fact, the only other time I can remember this happening baseball wise was Kendrys Morales with the Angels at the time hit a walk off home run, jumped on home plate, and had the same injury happen. Um, and that was back in like 2010 when he was just like coming on the scene. And for him, it kind of derailed his career. He kind of became stuck as this DH guy who couldn't move. I don't think that'll be the case with Edwin. I mean, they're two very different body types. I mean, if you know Kendrys Morales, he looks like me pretty much. So I I don't know. I kind of look at it like I said. I think it's just a case of bad timing, right? I mean, the World Baseball Classic is kind of under the microscope already as is because of timing, and one of the let's be honest, one of the most prolific names within the tournament was the one who got hurt. I see it as bad timing.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're opting into this tournament though, okay with taking that chance of putting your body at risk and potentially hurting your team, basically like he just did. The Mets are without a closer for the entire year, and they're probably going to have to go out and make another move, or hopefully they can try to find somebody internally that could fill the role. But Diaz, I mean, he's an all-star type closer, was one of the best in the league last year. It's just such a big blow.
The Mets won't be able to fill 50% of his production, even if they manage to find two or three different guys who could quote unquote fill the slot through the year. There's just no way. Like it's yeah, I mean it's a devastating blow to the team. This completely changes everything for the Mets. Not to sound too dramatic about it, but that is quite literally relief pitching was already kind of a question mark for the Mets coming into the year, and now your most stable force coming out of the bullpen, your closer, is gone. Like it's interesting too, because it doesn't even appear as though there's a chance he might maybe be back in like September or October. It's just literally nope, done.
Yeah, everybody's everybody's kind of doing that. I mean, the early time frame of this would put him back sometime at the end of September, but that's obviously you're hoping for best case scenario. Good points though by both of you that I do want to circle back to here. Already been discussed. Free agent signing David Robertson is at the back end of the bullpen. Adam Ottavino as well. Those are the two main in-house candidates already considered for the Mets. A couple other names in-house, although they themselves have gotten banged up this spring in different capacity. New Met via trade Brooks Raley, Bryce Montes de Oca, who we saw both up at the big leagues and in Syracuse last year, as well as Scott Coonrod. Free agent, there is one to keep a name to watch out for, and that is Zach Britton, who Buck Showalter has worked with before, is a big fan of, and is still obviously available.
Yeah, the Robertson is probably my pick for the closer, but as Josh already kind of mentioned, he's certainly not going to be as close to as good as Diaz was. I do think Britton ends up signing with the Mets, but I mean, we know as Yankee fans, he wasn't too good the past couple of years, staying healthy and his control with the ball. He couldn't throw strikes, and that's not what the Mets are going to want. So we'll have to see.
Offense, focus on your hitting. If I'm in the decision making chair in the Mets organization, not going to be able to afford those droughts, those stretches where you just don't score runs. You're not going to be able to afford any of that now this season. All those close games are going to have to be a little less close. The room for error just shrinks, pretty significantly. So, play better.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting here. I think it helps that you have some guys up front that can go a little bit further into the game than a lot of other starting pitchers can still. Obviously, Scherzer, Verlander, the two main guys, they'll go deep any time they're on the bump, so that'll help. I think one more name to keep an eye on here, John Curtis, who they brought in technically last offseason, recovered from Tommy John. He's looked pretty good this spring, so I think he'd start in the minors though, just so he gets more reps in game time wise. But I think that's going to be an interesting name here to keep an eye on as well in this.
If we're just gonna throw random names out there, Matt Harvey. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that too. Bring back the Dark Knight.
The pride of Team Italy this past World Baseball Classic, oddly enough.
Pitch one inning every 3 nights.
Hey,
please and thank you.
That might be all they need. All right, so that will pretty much wrap it up here, covering what we need to about Edwin Diaz and everything like that. Appreciate both you, Josh, and Kyle hopping on here quick, doing this. Josh, our thoughts and prayers are with you as the Mets fans continue to go through this trying time and once again, Met fandom.
It won't be a speedy recovery. It'll be a long and arduous one.
All right, appreciate it, guys. As always, thanks everybody for tuning in here quickly, and we'll talk to everybody later here as we get back closer to the season for Concrete Jungle.